my name's Tess Riley, and I'm a Guardian journalist and editor, and I work on the sustainable business section. We're actually going to start off by asking all the rapporteurs to come up on stage and introduce themselves, and also to invite Professor Clausen back on stage.
So this first chunk is from the economics team, and I'm Clara Gallagher. I'm a master's student at SOAS.
My name is Hannah Reid, and I work for the Water Authority of the Cayman Islands.
Anua Punpanit from Uppsala University.
Andrea Beck from MIT.
My name is Maartje Kouwman. I'm a PhD student at Stockholm University.
Therese Rudebeck, PhD student from Cambridge University.
Hello, my name is Chaminda Rajapaksa. I'm from 2030 Water Resources Group. I'm one of the lead rapporteurs for the economics team, and my other colleague, Mira Haddad from Jordan, had to go back today.
My name is Stanley Lipadzi from the Water Research Commission in South Africa.
My name is Sophia. I have a master's in agriculture development.
My name is Isla de Porge, and I was working with the environment team, and I've recently been working with the UNODC.
Hi, I'm Mahesh Jampani. I work for United Nations University.
Hello, my name is Emma Lyngedal, and I've been part of the environmental team this week.
Okay. I'm Daniel Diba. I just finished my master's at KTH, Royal Institute of Technology, and now I'm consulting for the Stockholm Environment Institute.
My name is Pavel Gladkov, and I work for HeapFab, which is a Swedish management consultancy company.
Good morning. My name is Charles Reeve. I'm the technical director for the Climate Resilient Infrastructure Development Facility, which is based in Southern Africa.
Hello, my name is Carmen Fernandez, and I'm one of the lead rapporteurs for the social development team, which is following me on the stage.
Hi, my name is Joe Shuttleworth, and I'm with Cardiff University.
I'm Gunilla Björklund, and I'm the other lead rapporteur for the social group. I'm a freestanding consultant otherwise. Thank you.
I'm Arthur Forti from Global Water Partnership and in the social team.
I'm Abe Aslan, and I'm a master's student at KTH Royal Institute of Technology here in Stockholm.
So my name is Hanna Hellander, and I'm from Uppsala University.
My name is Angelica Eldén. I come from Sweden Water Research.
Hi, I'm Hanna van Redding. I study development at Lund University.
Yeah, you know me from last session, so I'm here for the seminars.
Okay, thank you. Yes, unless you want to keep hold of it. Yeah, why don't you keep hold of it? Okay. In people's pairs would be great. Thank you. So as you can see, we've got a huge amount of expertise amongst these rapporteurs, and they've been working in 3 teams: the environment team, the social team, and the economic team. And what I'd love to do first off is just to hear from each of the pairs about the key findings that you've kind of come across as you've been listening. They've been to every talk at World Water Week this week, which is an impressive feat. And they've been listening and drawing sort of synergies between everything that's been going on. So if you'd like to start off on the on the economic team.
Thank you very much. One message that came up again and again was that business as usual cannot continue if we are to expect to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, especially goal number 6. If we are to make significant progress toward the SDG goals, we have to triple investments in water. The MDGs required investments of US $30 to $35 billion per annum, and that needs to be tripled. However, in most parts of the world, financing of water investments is a major challenge. New financing models, innovative financial instruments, and blended finance involving both the public and private sectors is needed. Capital is abundant, but investors are shy to invest in the water sector as it is perceived to be risky, and they have a limited understanding of the sector. Firstly, although water is essential to life, health, and socioeconomic development, it is currently undervalued and inadequately priced in most countries. Getting the price right sets the foundation to attract investments in the water sector and spurs technical and market innovation. Secondly, the financial viability of institutions needs to be improved. Financial viability can be improved by well-structured transactions, enhancing the capacities of people, developing deliberate and fine-tuned institutional frameworks, and by developing social capital through multi-stakeholder partnerships, the multi-stakeholder value chain that Torkin mentioned, which can forge consensus, reduce political risk, improve accountability, and promote ownership. Currently, in most countries, the institutional framework is fragmented across the water cycle. This not only results in suboptimal management, but also discourages investment. Strong institutions result in well-functioning markets and in turn attract strong investments. Likewise, governments need to focus on a full range of policy tools to mitigate risk for investors. As has been mentioned several times throughout this morning's speeches, the public sector cannot achieve SDG number 6 alone. And while public-private partnerships are increasingly common in the water sector, the partnership aspect of PPPs should be emphasized, where the private sectors actively team up with government on project development and establish active lines of communication. PPPs can be part of multiple scales, ranging from large corporations to small water enterprises. Furthermore, climate change enhances the water risk. While climate variability introduces further risk to water investments, climate change also boosts the demand for investments. Climate funds can be used to build bankable water projects using blended financial tools to reduce the risk to an acceptable level for private investors and to lower overall financing cost. And I'd like to end this by quoting from Jan Eliasson, Deputy Secretary Director of the UN. We live not only in a time of great risk, but in a time of great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Okay, next up, I think we're going to hear from the environment team.
Thank you. We are part of the environment, and if that is true, we should actually accept that we are part of the ecosystems, and we depend on these services which are important in our lives. I think one of the issues that came very strongly during the discussions during this week is about integrated water resource management. And what has also been singled out, which is very, very important, was the issue relating to the abstraction of water, especially groundwater. This is actually problematic, especially in the developing world. And it has been discussed that if IRRM can be implemented, actually thinking about the strategies and also the plans which are based on the issues that are in the basins or the catchment, it has actually a promise that can result good things that we can benefit from. And going forward, it's actually good that people discuss issues about water rights and also land rights, that all these two things actually must be aligned so that all the stakeholders can benefit from the resources and also the benefit that ecosystem provides. And as I've mentioned, we are part of that ecosystems. So improvement of regulation is actually very important, and my colleague Ayla will actually talk more about issues of regulation.
Okay, thank you, Stanley. Yeah, what we found was that we need governments really to put stricter regulations also on companies that aren't paying the real price for water. So this concept of virtual water, I think, is quite important. And when you're taking a lot of products out of a country, you're essentially taking a lot of water out of the country. And corporations and companies need to be paying for that water and ensuring that there's reuse systems in place so that they're not abstracting as much water. The polluter pays principle, I think, is important for the environment, and that we need a life cycle assessment model for companies to be sticking to. Also, we found perhaps that sometimes the environmental concerns are still sidelined in the discussion. And there was a nice anecdote that it's like bringing a knife into a gunfight. When you're talking with large financiers and people with large economic interests in the area, if you start talking about the environment, it's not central in the discussion, but more and more so now we're finding that it is there, and it really needs to be stressed. Also, perhaps our metrics for measuring, the development, the theme of this conference is water for sustainable growth. So perhaps the GDP indicator is not what we need right now. We need something that really takes the environment to the core of what development is. So you were going to talk a little bit about the water reuse that we need.
Yeah, wastewater is another thing that has been talked about a lot. There were several sessions that talked about giving wastewater an attention as the best way to prevent pollutants to re-enter our water courses. Prevention is better than cure, isn't it? The reuse, the resource recovery and reuse, RRR, has actually come forth quite strongly as well, and it has been linked quite well with the intentions and also all the effort that we are having in order to prevent, in order to protect our ecosystems. But it's also important that we should note that there is minimal waste treatment globally at the present moment, and that is also contributing more in the degradation of our ecosystem. And while this wastewater is a resource, but we should also think about the emerging contaminants that can be present there, the harmful pathogens, as well as the antimicrobial resistant pathogens. Somebody actually mentioned during one of the sessions that this AMR are a local challenge, but the point is that it is actually a global problem. And that is really true. So treatment or treating this wastewater can actually be useful because we can be able to use this water for different purposes. It may be for recreational purpose, it may be for farming, crop production, it may also be good actually as a source of drinking water. So moving forward, as stakeholders, maybe the message that we should always think about is how can we really invest in wastewater treatment avenues? How can we identify all those business models in such a way that we can address socio-economic issues? Ella, can you share with us about some of the nexus relating to water?
Okay, sure. So at this conference, there's been quite a lot of talk about the water, food, energy nexus, but we need to still understand that the nexus it's not a thing, it's a process, it's a way of seeing things, it's a way of seeing the interlinkages between the food production system and our water usage and where we're getting our energy from. So it's great that we're now seeing the impacts of one nexus on another, and different stakeholders are coming together to discuss these issues. But food waste, we have a lot of places in the world that are food scarce, and then we have a lot of food wastage still. So that's a lot of water that's being wasted. We still need to work on making more sustainable food systems and also ensuring that we can provide food for the growing population without degrading the water sources that are much needed. Also, the agreement with the COP21, I think, this is great that we've got this global agreement, and something that was stressed in a lot of the talks is that we need to strengthen the institutional capacity really at all levels for indigenous communities, for local groups, so that they're working also with ministries and the regulations there, and then the top level, we're sticking to the goals. So the last thing I wanted to mention that we were talking about was the idea that the next world war will be about water. So there's this idea that came up that's when the elephants fight, the grass dies. So, with transboundary aquifers, we need transboundary cooperation, and we need countries to really be working together to best use the water for both sides. And, water can be a source for war, but it also can be a source of peace. So as long as we stress the cooperation, then we can find that. So I think that was us from the environment team.
Thank you, Stanley and Isla. Finally, onto the social team.
Hi there. Something that struck us during the week, especially during a series of talks from the MENA region, they spoke of the water crisis in the region being not so much a resource problem, but an institutional one. This theme sort of came up again and again for me. Maybe I wasn't going to the right talks, but it kept coming up in discussions on transboundary cooperation and conflict, the role of regulation, and how to deliver sustainable services in water. In these sessions, the words governance and integrity seem to be gaining more and more attention as a means of achieving sustainability. Another key part of institutional integrity seems to be the question of accountability for decisions and actions, not just looking at a social aspect, but across economic and environmental issues as well, to foster an atmosphere of transparency and trust within water. Another key image theme brought up was through the series of water and jobs. In this, it was one of education, skills, and capacity building. Earlier, when you were speaking, you said that figures paint a better picture than word. But in these talks, it was stated that by 2030, we will need 1 million people to fill a gap and skills to continue meeting demand in water. So, just for an example, that's over 300 times the attendance of World Water Week, or over 66,000 people per year from now until then. This is a huge number, but it's not only a numbers problem, it's a skills problem. There need to be 1 million people with the right skills to face the challenges emerging, and there needs to be innovation and the formal and informal education offered to the water workforce of tomorrow. Talking of innovation, we also noticed the increased importance of accurate and reliable scientific information to support the decision-making process. Beyond this, it was mentioned that scientific agreements, which can be easier to achieve than political ones, can often lead to political agreements. The global agenda, it appears, is not only about sharing money, but it's also about sharing information. In several of the talks I saw about open source information technology and the value of it for growing not only knowledge, but building capacity and supporting decisions. Thank you.
And since social development is such a broad topic, we'd like to add a few additional points from the discussion these days. Elaborating on the point raised on the importance of sharing information and knowledge, we see that it's becoming clear for more and more actors in the water sector that provision of services has to go beyond grey infrastructure, and we hear many people today also repeating on this. We have listened to many interesting initiatives being implemented around the world to promote a more integrated management of water resources. We've been discussing about green infrastructure, water stewardship, payment for environmental services, but we also listen to the voice of policymakers, water service providers, and many other actors saying that they are interested, but they cannot do it alone. So this is a call for the wider water sector that has to respond on this and collaborate in the joint design of programs and initiatives. And this leads to one of the key words of the week, which is collaboration. And it's not a new one, but there are still many challenges in bringing all the stakeholders to the table, finding a common language, and coordinating efforts, while keeping a good balance of the different interests. Building on sustainable, balanced, and effective multi-stakeholder platforms, as our colleagues were saying, is paramount. We would also like to highlight what seems to be a novel topic in the World Water Week, and this is faith. Water is essential for life, but beyond basic survival, water has a spiritual value. Many cultures, religions, and traditions acknowledge that. We can particularly learn a lot from indigenous people on this subject. Water inspires poetry, painting, music. We've been talking a lot about water conflicts, and we have to solve them. We have to keep on fighting them. But we were happy to see that the potential of water as a unifier, as a common language, has also come to the table. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks. Oh, you guys, yeah, you're going to need to keep that. Okay, so I've got a few very brief questions for the rapporteurs, and then I'm going to throw it open to you guys. So if you want to start thinking about your questions. The first one is about gender. Where do women fit into this?
Yeah, gender has, again this week, this year, played a central role in the discussions. And this is unfortunately still needed. We still keep on seeing panels with only men, despite the huge compromise of the organizers for gender equality. But this reflects parts of our society. And it is undermining the water sector because it has been proven the potential of gender equality and women participation in many different areas, from the performance of private companies to the success of water and sanitation programs. We keep on talking about innovation, and there's no innovation without diversity, and there's no diversity without meaningful participation. We should cleverly acknowledge and understand the huge contribution that women can do that, and women are ready and are willing to contribute to especially to the decision-making discussions, and I think we will not be being smart enough if we don't take advantage of this and make it real and meaningful.
Okay, thank you. I work on the sustainable business section, as I mentioned, so I spend my day thinking about businesses, how they can improve their sustainability. Maybe this is one for the environment team. If you had to pick a key thing that you think businesses should be doing to ensure a more sustainable sort of future for water, what would it be?
I would probably say that virtual water really has to come into the accounting of corporations and large companies, or all companies. They need to see what the water content that they're using in their products and make sure that that's either reused or that they're replacing it, and they're feeding back some of the profits to infrastructure projects for water. So I think the water reuse is really key, so I was really happy to find out that's the theme of the next conference as well. So yeah, the inclusion of virtual water is a key point, and then also water reuse. Those would be my key points, I think.
Great. Stanley?
Yeah, I can also support that it is actually important that corporations should think about investing in wastewater reuse and recovery, because that's where the business of water actually showing the potential for growth. But I think it's actually well known, also from the World Economic Forum, that water insecurity, actually it is a business threat. So actually it's important for the corporations to come on board and be part of the people who are coming up with solution.
Yeah. Joe?
I actually went to a few talks as well. They were about the water and jobs. So a few of them looked at the supply chain with businesses operating in sort of developing areas, and then also the value chain, so the employees working for them. And it was sort of trying to impart or sort of give the knowledge to the companies of the value of providing wash services for their own employees, sort of to increase productivity, reduce absenteeism, and sort of all-round increase the health of the people in the area they're working in. So that was an interesting point.
Great, thank you. Anyone else on the panel on that one?
Yes, certainly. I think the businesses have the funds that are required to invest in the water sector. I don't think the public sector has enough funds to be able to meet all the demands for investments. Likewise, I think if you look at the enterprises that have reached the most remote parts of the world, they have been successful businesses. They have reached areas that governments still haven't reached. And I think businesses can increase the reach of water services to the poorest of the poor. Also, obviously, if you look at efficiency, I think the businesses, we can learn a lot, and governments can learn a lot from businesses in terms of increasing efficiency. And obviously, the water sector opens up a whole new arena for businesses to create jobs for a lot of the unemployed or underemployed people in the world.
Thank you. Torquil.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I've, of course, been listening, because did these reporters hear the same thing that we heard in the seminars? And as I list what you said, there's a large commonality of messages coming out. So I don't want to mention them all, because there was a lot on stakeholders, and also we now talk about the private sectors and the business as a natural part of the whole scenery. It's not questioned anymore. I know there are a few things, and then that, for example, that we may not have been focused on so much. On contaminants, I'm sure we want to invite Professor Rose next year. She was compelling. And when we talk next year's topic on wastewater and RRR, as you mentioned, the contaminant dimension was highlighted this year in a very compelling way. I also heard a few things that we didn't sort of touch much on groundwater, for example, often forgotten. And then the whole transporter dimension, whether it's transboundary or, as you mentioned it, on the trade, this transporter dimension of growth, I think, is very important. And finally, two small things are, thank you for that figure. Now I have one more, 1 million people more by 2030. And then on the gender, let me say that for us in Stockholm Water Week, that's a key issue. But we don't always manage to really address it properly, I must say. Okay, UN Water had considered an international year of water on women. I know it's been discussed in the UN. I don't know where it's going to land, but we made a solemn promise, and you can take us to account next year, that we will be much more explicit on the role of gender in Water Week next year.
It's good to hear. Great. Okay, thank you, everybody. How are we doing for time? We're quite tight for time, so we've probably just got time for a couple of questions. We've got a huge knowledge base on the stage here, so has anybody got any questions for our rapporteurs? I can't see. There's a woman at the back there, I think.
Thank you very much. My name is Nandita Singh. I'm at the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm. Thank you very much to the rapporteurs for giving this summary of what all discussions have been going on. From my own attendance in some of these sessions that have gone, and from what I've listened to you, I have a question. How much of focus has been there on water communication? Because we are talking about stakeholders, we are talking about sensitizing everyone, because water is everybody's business. And I think that water communication has to be an important focus in our entire approach. So that's a question. And if there has not been enough focus, I would look forward to having a focus on this aspect from next time onwards. And at my end, I have launched a platform for water communication known by the name Millennium Water Story, the purpose of which is to sensitize people, water users, the decision makers, policy makers, researchers, students, and the common man, to be sensitized to the issues, learn about the problems, and share knowledge about good solutions. So I look forward to the inclusion of this perspective in the World Water Week.
Okay, thank you for the question. A question on communication. Who would like to take that?
It might be a little bit off topic, but I think the role of the... Okay, so we've got the emergence of the carbon market and a lot of these payment for ecosystem service projects now. And I think the role of water in these projects is also really important. So I think starting with, my knowledge is mainly about the RED Plus program. So we need to really communicate the importance of water in these projects, because trees, I mean, provide a water source and they regulate the water flow, but they can also take water out. So, you know, we need the right kind of trees being put into the right kinds of soils and for the right reasons, not just for offsetting so that somebody could have some carbon credit. So the communication within payment for ecosystem service projects of water, I think, is important. In terms of communicating generally on the local level issues of water, I think, yeah, we need more of that. I mean, basic hygiene care and how water can be best captured and used is, you know, something that NGOs are working with a lot, but companies probably have a role to put more emphasis on communicating at the local level.
Carmen?
Yes, coming back to irrigation, we are very aware that agriculture is the highest water user, and that in that sense we maybe I think we have to accept the criticism that we have to collaborate more among both sectors, and happily things are moving, and I think that the water and food nexus has established very good platforms already, and we have to look not only at the irrigation level but at the whole food chain, and definitely there has to be more communication, and we have to continue building on these platforms and integrated and related every topic in this big issue.
Joe and then Hannah, Mike there.
Sort of going back to the business and water from a WASH aspect, I went to one talk and it was about how to communicate the benefits of providing WASH facilities for the employees working for the business. And so part of that, they were looking at what methods they could use to communicate this across. I think the communication is a particularly important thing of the benefits, because sometimes the benefits are more intangible, so they're not as easily quantified. So it's good to have excellent communication processes in place.
I think that's a really important point. Hannah?
I think one thing that's come up also with the PPPs that have been discussed throughout the week has been the importance of communication with the local community and the people that will be participating in the effects of the business. So there was an excellent case from Sao Paulo where metered water supply was being introduced to the informal favela community on the outskirts of the city, and they were sure to incorporate socio-educational aspects into the development of that project, so that the community was aware of the benefits of receiving metered water supply.
Chimenda, did you have anything? No, Torquil.
Well, that's one aspect of communication I want to raise, and that is we may be good or bad at communicating, we may be good or bad at using the IT revolution and getting out to people. One thing we are not good at is communicating across. If we take a show of hands in this room, how many people in this room are energy people? How many people in this room are ocean people? How many people in this room represent the other, so-called other SDGs? So I think we have a major communication challenge and problem. I mean, we all in this room know IWRM. Who else knows about IWRM? Yet it's a target. And so the nexus that you mentioned have been extremely helpful in beginning to communicate across those other worlds that use other words and to whom water is critically important. So I think that's where we have a major communication challenge, is to get it across to those outside the water church, so to speak.
Okay, some really important points. Clearly a fruitful topic for discussion. One more question from the gentleman there. If you just, sorry, wait for a microphone, thank you. And if you could introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, David Benjamin, and I'm here from the United States. I am wondering where all the journalists are who should be here writing about what's going on and publishing it currently on a daily basis in the newspapers and for the websites and the news services and the television. Maybe they're here and I don't see them. But in a conference like this, where very important people and institutions are discussing extremely important issues that are going to affect our ability to deal with climate change from today. I know that the journalists are interested in this, so next year I think the journalists should be in the room and they should be being fed this important information.
Okay, thank you. That's not really a question for the panel. Oh, it is. Great. Look, Joe has something to say.
It's not really an answer to the question, but we've got Tess Riley here from The Guardian, which is one of the UK's biggest newspapers. I don't know who else has been here, but this is just the only person I've met, so that's sort of an answer.
Thank you very much. Carmen?
Yeah, I think I would like to add two points on this. One is we are all readers of newspapers and we watch TV. We have to put pressure to ask for good stories as consumers of media. That's one point. The other will be that from the other side, as professionals, we have to learn on using a more public language, a language that is more widely understood sometimes than the one that we use. We like this very fancy words, but we have to explain them, or we have to manage a more universal language when we give our messages and make our messages more attractive. Because we talk about water, that's universal, let's use that.
Great, thank you. I think that's a really important point to end on. I mean, from a journalist's perspective, there have been 7 of us here from The Guardian this week, and they've been writing, we've had stories published, so I can't speak on behalf of other publications, but we've been here. And I think Carmen's point is a really important one, which is that when you are a journalist, you are looking to take this knowledge and translate it into stories that the wider public want to read in order to engage with it. So the best thing that you can be doing is looking at the work that you're doing, is finding the stories within it, the people that we should be talking to, and you should be bombarding us with information so that we make sure that we prioritize that. Thank you to everybody here. Thank you to our rapporteurs in the audience as well. I'm sorry that we couldn't have you all on stage because there's clearly a lot to discuss. And can I next invite Ms. Corinne Lexier onto the stage? Thank you, everybody.